I'm Kata Bikuk and welcome to the Walk the Valley, the podcast that breaks down barriers to bringing healthcare innovation to market. Today, I'm joined by Christian Höding, founder and CEO of Høding, and an expert in management consulting, strategy and execution. Startups in healthcare often focus on securing funding, but the reality is strategy, execution and leadership are just as critical for survival. In this episode, we take a deep dive into turning strategy into action, exploring what works and what doesn't when trying to navigate the challenges of healthcare innovation. We discuss how to choose the right market wisely to avoid costly missteps and ensure long-term success. A key part of this journey is building a strong team, one that can truly deliver and adapt to the demands of a competitive industry. We also examine the importance of staying connected to customers, ensuring that products genuinely meet their needs rather than just looking good on paper. And finally, we tackle the one big misconception about success. Let's go for a walk in the valley. Christian, thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. Before we dive into the questions, could you share a bit about your background and the work that you do at Herd.io?
Of course. Yeah, I'm Christian. I have a background within strategy consulting. I have been focusing primarily on health tech, pharma tech. I'm educated from CBS with a master in business administration and information systems. I have huge interest within the digital health space. That's also why I created the company Herd together with my two partners.
So you said you have experience in management consulting? This is something that many healthcare startups could use. Today, I would love to dive deep into the role of strategy in navigating the valley of death. What works and what doesn't, and how you navigate the valley of death with Herd.
I would try to do my best in sharing some of my perspectives from my toolbox from the consulting world, but also my nuanced approach to looking at a problem and also seeing how you could solve it.
In your experience, what does a strong strategy look like for a healthcare startup? Is it enough to have a great product, or is there more to it?
I think having a great product in a startup, of course it is necessary, but I also think that the product will evolve over time. So I think having the great product in the start is probably not enough. So I think as a part of the strategy, there's also something around finding out, who's your ideal customer profile, who are having that problem that you're trying to solve, and in which areas of the industries are the problem the biggest. And when I say the biggest, it is where the problem has the most time consumption. It is where having the problem gives the leader or the employees the most headaches during a day. And that is where you need to put your efforts. Then, of course, there's also something around identifying which platforms are these customers primarily on, and how can you engage with them as much as possible.
You mentioned that you need to know your customers, and this is very important. Many startups assume that they know their customers, but they often don't talk to them enough. How do you ensure that you're building something your customers actually need?
Well, I can only talk from my own experience, but what I try to do at least is through regular LinkedIn posts, try to engage with the audience that I'm trying to solve a problem for. And of course, I have regular conversation with those people, engaging with my content and with my company's content. But then taking that further, I also have calls with people within the industry, also to learn more about what are the problems they're facing, because I don't know everything. So that's why I need to get as much in detail with the people I'm trying to help. And that starts with just opening the dialogue. A lot of people want to help. And if you have something for them to make their life easier and more effectful, then they're obviously interested in hearing more.
Who are Herd's customers?
Well, I think the simple answer right now, we don't have a specific description of who we can help the most. Of course, our main target group is companies that are looking to be forward-thinking around employer health and prioritizing the health of the employees to make sure that they not only just strive, but they also perform even better at work. And the niche group of who we may help in the future is not entirely clear yet. But I can say some of the characteristics are forward-thinking CEOs who prioritize their own health first, who have experienced stress themselves maybe, or cognitive health issues, and who wants to prioritize that for their employees and want to set the example by prioritizing that.
Herd is a health tech company, so your primary target group is not the public healthcare system, but you're selling to companies. This can be very different from selling to healthcare providers. What are the key elements of a strong B2B sales strategy in your experience?
It goes back to identifying who are your key stakeholders, who are the ones taking the decision, figuring out what is their problems, what are their biggest headaches. Is it employee net promoter score, like the likeliness of you recommending the place to other people in your network? Is that what they're measured on? It's about figuring out in this B2B sales strategy on the stakeholders that you're trying to engage with, what are they being measured on, what are their KPIs, and then make sure to have your service aligned with that, or at least make your service able to document those improvement points. Because if you can't do that, then it's very difficult for you to approach the person with the right sales strategy, because you can't provide enough evidence that your service will put them in a better place after you have entered.
Speaking of evidence, there have been a few companies that got bankrupted while trying to develop mental health solutions for workforces. So the market seems to be a bit tricky in this space. How do you build credibility and make sure that you stay afloat?
I think a lot of the credibility also comes from the team trying to solve the given problem the companies are having. And if the team is not trustworthy in the sense that it represents different knowledge and competencies, then I believe it will be hard. It will not be impossible, but it will be hard to convince the decision maker that what you're offering compared to the 1,000 other solutions out there is the right solution for them. But I think it comes to building up the core team that will make sure that this is a service for now and for the future, and that comes with having different knowledge pillars that you represent. And then of course also making sure that your service is user friendly and simple. I think simplicity is also a key element in making sure that you're not building too many features, because that'll make really good on the tech side, but when it comes out, you would have wasted a lot of development time building something that people probably won't interact with. So I think a lot of the bottlenecks of those health tech startups working within workplace well-being is that we try so much, but I think it's about starting with simplicity and then building from that.
Okay, so you're saying that instead of perfecting and making your product cover all the needs that are out there, you need to create a product that's just good enough to go out on the market.
Yeah, I think that also comes for us. It's a learning of not trying to think that you can solve all problem at once, but instead of doing that, you focus on a niche and then you can build from that. So again, it's about building an MVP that is valuable for the users engaging with it, but it doesn't overflow them with different things they have to engage with as a start, at least.
Speaking of the team, where do startups go wrong when building their teams?
Well, I think sometimes, and I'm just thinking out of experience and after speaking with friends that also have startups, it's about hiring the wrong people. That could be friends in the beginning. You end up hiring because you love spending time with them, but they're not really the right fit for your company. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you wait too long to fire the wrong people because you don't want to admit that you made a wrong hiring. So you end up just wasting time because you have your pride to keep. So I think being a great leader is also about admitting that when you make mistakes of hiring people that were pretty great, but they were not the right match for the culture, then fire them instead of wasting time because of your pride.
And company culture is very important in moving forward in your long-term vision and short-term execution. How do you build a good team culture?
I think, again, also from speaking with companies that are doing great, what I'm seeing is that the leaders are setting the example. They're setting the great example when it comes to being front runner on performance, health, and also just taking new initiatives in. They're leading by example by also being a part of the new initiative and not just giving it out to the employers and not being a part of it. So I think it really depends on the leader's ability to lead by example. And what I've experienced from past leaders I've been working with and leaders I've been talking with is that if they don't explain the why so clear to their employees, then the culture pillars of the organizational culture will not be so clear to the employees. They won't see why this is a part of a bigger thing, and they won't follow the path that the leader will lead. That's at least my impression also from working with various leaders in the consulting world. The good leaders are the leaders that lead by example and also are good at explaining the main purpose of new initiatives, because otherwise the employees won't understand it and then they won't follow along.
Yeah, good leaders create this common understanding of the goals, where we're going to, and create that intrinsic motivation in the employees. So they are there to work together towards the goal that is also theirs, not just the company's.
I mean, you have to inspire your employees because you are the leader. If you're a team leader or if you're the CEO, you're the one they look up towards, and you're the one setting the direction together with your employees, of course, but you're the one setting the direction. And if they don't feel inspired in what we're steering towards, then it's very difficult and it will take more time to understand why. It's really about, inspiring your people and explaining clearly why we need them on this path towards achieving the goal of helping millions of people with mental health, just to give an example.
From your management consulting experience, beyond the vision, what makes a founder or a CEO successful in actually executing and moving through this valley of death?
Well, having the ability to sit down every morning before you meet at the office and plan your day, and plan your day accordingly to the goals you've set out with your team, with your co-founders. That is a crucial ability, because if you can do that, you also know what to prioritize and what not to prioritize. And yes, there will be some short-term execution that has to be done in order for us to move closer towards the overall goal, the overall vision. That starts with planning your day and prioritizing what is the most important right now in order for us to move a step further.
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions about what it takes to succeed?
Well, out of experience, I always thought I have to work hard, I have to work all the time, and whenever I'm not working, I'm working a little bit. So this idea of the way to get success is just by overworking all the time. I think that's the biggest misconception of them all, because what I realized from past experience is that you need the time to recover, both mentally and physically, in order for you to be a better version of yourself when you're at work, but also in your private life. And if you don't have the energy because you don't give yourself time to relax, then the long-term version of yourself will not be high performing and creating high value for the customers that you're trying to help, because you won't simply have the energy and competencies to sustain that level of performance. So that's at least how I see it. And then we have a tendency to just think that instead of being a little bit patient, we try to do a lot of things that are actually diverting our focus from doing what is the most necessary. And I think a lot of people have that tendency. Luckily, I'm also seeing that a lot of founders, but also human in general, are looking into their health and also prioritizing that, because they can see that if they do it, they feel much better afterwards, and that makes them perform on a more long-term level compared to not doing it.
How do you recharge?
I've had stress myself, so I know what it's like not to sleep at night and how it impacts your both your cognitive health, but also your energy levels in general. So what I do is, on a regular level, I have physical exercise as a part of my daily routine. I do breath work because it helps me a lot with my focus levels, and it helps me shift my focus from all the things you haven't done yet to the things that are actually going your way right now, and it could be simple things. And then the third thing is gratitude. So I try to note down 3 things in a notebook on my iPhone every day. It can be both big and small things where I say, these were the things I achieved today. Because when I do that, it helps me a lot with just sustaining that positive mindset. And whenever challenges come, I don't see them as failures. I see them as opportunities for me to grow. And I think the only way I could look at it like that is through these things I've implemented into my daily routine.
So, physical exercise, mindfulness through breath work and reflection to maintain positive mindset and high energy levels.
So it's very simple, but like it really works. And of course, there's the consistency aspect of this. It doesn't come overnight, but it's something you have to be able to continue doing.
Without consistency, the effects are not kicking in. Tell me a bit about what the market looks like for Herd. You're based in Denmark. Denmark is typically a small market for healthcare startup. How do you see the landscape?
I think that's a totally fair point. I think you have to start somewhere, and I think the Danish market is not a bad place to start, because Denmark is also acknowledged as one of the most digitalized countries in the world. And if you can succeed in such crowded and digital market, then the probability of you succeeding in other markets is higher. It is not guaranteed, but the learnings we take from the Danish market into the next market that we will grow in is very beneficial.
Which markets do you have your eye on?
Well, I think the British market will actually be the next one, because what we're seeing is the problem, again, that we're trying to solve is of course mental health and performance issues while being at the workplace. And from statistics, we can also see that this problem is huge in the UK. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of options out there on how to help the employers with insights on their health. And when I say health, I'm saying mental health. And then, of course, getting suggestions on how you could improve is not really something that is being offered other than survey data, which is not taking the holistic and scientific approach that we are.
Yeah, this is very true. It doesn't take into the consideration the circumstances, the absenteeism, and it's just mental health survey without any actual intervention. But what Herd offers is a complex assessment and intervention.
Exactly. So we're not only just providing each individual with objective insights on their cognitive health, we're also providing them with daily suggestions on what they can do to improve. So this is not only something around stress, but it's also something around cognitive performance. So how can you actually make sure that you could either sustain a high focus levels during a day, so you could feel better and perform better. That is only possible if you are provided with the necessary data points to be able to change the behavior that you're implementing into your daily work life. And we are also seeing that from wearable devices these days. A lot of people are wearing one on their hand, but it's not providing them sufficient knowledge on their actual cognitive health. So that's where we come into play. We're actually combining the two. So we're combining survey data from our app with the objective data from our headset to give each individual insights and suggestions on how to improve going forward. And we're also providing the leaders with the same.
Mm-hmm. And what does the headset measure?
The headset measures through using EEG technology, cognitive stress, focus levels, and mental effort across time. So you could wear the headset during a day from, let's say, 8 to 10, take it off, and then you could wear it again after lunch, and then you could see how are the data how the data coming into play through these different time periods. And you could wear it the same day, the day after, and figure out if there's certain events during the day that are impacting you either positively or negatively. And we are trying to unveil those events through the surveys that we're asking you to answer.
Right, so you're combining surveys that you collect through your application with the data you get from the headset. And this headset is quite practical because one can wear it while working and listen to music, for example.
Yeah, so I'm wearing them right now. So you could actually sit in Teams calls or Google meetings, and then you connect through our phone, through our application, and then you're able to see after this podcast or event, how was my cognitive stress levels, how was my focus levels, and how much mental effort did I put into this podcast to be able to, come up with the right answers and provide some knowledge.
That would be very interesting to see. If you had to give one critical piece of strategic advice to healthcare entrepreneurs, what would it be?
Well, from a commercial point of view, this is an ongoing thing, but be very sharp on who are the ones you will be helping the most. Identify the problem, identify who has the problem, make the business case as well. So what does it mean to have this problem, and how can you make not the problem go away, but at least reduce the cost of having the problem for the company themselves. I think that would be the first part of my advice. My second part of my advice is for those entrepreneurs listening into this podcast, prioritizing your mental health is very important. It would likely also enable you to perform even better for the clients you help out because you have much more energy. So it's around identifying your ICP and figuring out who are the ones you can help the most. And then from an entrepreneurial level, in order for you to do that the best way, I think it's also around showing the example yourself, because people don't buy into a product. Typically, they also buy into the people behind the product. So when you have identified the ICP, they also look into saying, okay, if I'm going to work with Høding, I also want to know who's behind that brand and company. And then I'm convinced that these guys will be the right ones for me to work with in order for having this problem solved.
What is ICP?
Ideal customer profile.
Ideal customer profile. Thank you so much for this great discussion. Is there anything you would like to add?
When you're in a startup and when you're trying to make the great product, I think it's worth mentioning that the great product won't be there at start. It'll probably be super nice, but the great product will evolve over time if you learn through the mistakes you make and you correct them quickly. So it's around failing fast and also accepting that that's a part of the journey. I think that's just worth mentioning, and not getting too stressed about, not having the final product yet. I think it will come as long as you just keep doing what you do and keep learning from the mistakes you make. And we all make mistakes.
That's right. Thank you so much again for being on the podcast. It's been great talking to you. That's a wrap for today's episode of Walk the Valley. Talking with Christian gave us a powerful look into the strategic decisions that truly define success in healthcare innovation. We explored the importance of knowing your customers, how a strong B2B sales strategy differs from selling to public healthcare systems, and why credibility starts with building a highly competent team. One of the biggest takeaways: start simple. Instead of overloading your product with features, focus on getting the fundamentals right. And when it comes to the leadership, leading by example, inspiring your team, and owning your decisions is what separates good leaders from great ones. If you found this episode insightful, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us bring more real-world lessons to innovators like you. And remember, you can now listen to Walk the Valley on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep walking the valley.